Hello there. I have a question for you. Do you have a small business or a side project that's running on Ruby on Rails so you want to get deployed to the web? Well, today I'd like to introduce you to Hatchbox. So, what is Hatchbox, you might ask? Well, if you land on the homepage here, you will see that Hatchbox allows you to host your Rails applications very simply. And in this video, we're going to do just that. So grab a glass of your favorite beverage and let's get started. So I turned 40 back in June. Yes, that's right, I said 40. And I promised myself that I was going to, from that moment forward, start working to improve my health, do more things that I love outside of programming, get more active out in the world and just enjoy life more. And part of that is I wanted to, create a blog so I can write about that and share it out to the world. So we're going to do that right now. So this is going to be a simple Rails app that we're just going to spin up to show how to deploy it via Hatchbox. But just because it's simple doesn't mean that deploying with Hatchbox is going to be any more complicated for a more complex application. So let's go ahead and make this new Rails app. I'm just going to say Rails new, my blog, and I think I want to use Postgres. So we'll say Postgres QL. And I think I want to use Tailwind also. So we'll throw in the -c flag here. Just say Tailwind and let's get this generated. All right, now that that's generated, I'm going to go ahead and change into that directory. I'll clear this out and I'm just going to go ahead and generate a scaffold for a post model and give it a title. And I'm going to use action text so that I can have rich text there. So I have a little alias here to make the scaffold generator command even shorter. So I'll say rgscaf, which is short for Rails generate scaffolding or scaffold. I'm going to go ahead and say post and let's just give that a title. It's going to be a string title by default and let's just go ahead and generate this. So now I want to go ahead and install action text, which I believe is just Rails G and action text :install. I'm going to do the -t flag here so I can go ahead and double check myself on that. So let's see, Rails action text install. Yep, so I'll just go ahead and copy this and run that right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and migrate my database. I also have an alias for that, so rdb migrate or rdbm for Rails DB migrate. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this up in my editor, and then let's go ahead and go to that post model and add in the has rich text. I'll just say content for now. Okay, I'll save that. Next thing, let's go ahead and go to our routes file and set up our root route here. And conveniently enough for me, I can just go ahead and use the one that's generated by default there. All right, let's go ahead and fire up our server here and let's check things out locally here. All right, locally, things are looking good here. Make a new post. Let's just say first post. Okay, we'll go ahead and create that. That's great and all, but we don't have the form field there to enter any actual content for that post. So let's go ahead and fix that. So we'll go to that form partial. Just going to go down here. I'm going to go ahead and just yank these lines right here real quick. Paste these in and then let's change this stuff here. Let's just say this will be content. This will also be content. And then we just need to change this to rich text area. All right, we'll save that. Let's refresh. There we go. So we have our field now. Now we need to go ahead and allow that content form field to come through. So we can go to our controller here. We can go into here and we can add in the content parameter. Okay, and now we can say this should, all work. Let's go ahead and update the post. Okay, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. We need to display that post, so let's go to that partial. So we'll say _post. And I'll just go ahead and add in the post.content here. And go ahead and just surround that with a div. Okay, now let's go ahead and see, refresh. Okay, cool. So there's our content. Now I'm just going to go ahead and tidy this up how I like it here. Just kind of split these out like that. Okay, so we've got a working blog right now. Let's go ahead and push this up to GitHub and then get this thing deployed with Hatchbox. So I'm going to just quickly go ahead and commit everything here. And we'll just say working blog with action text. Okay, now let's pop over to GitHub and make a repo for this thing. All right, let's go ahead and crank through this real fast. Repository name, we're going to say my blog. Let's go ahead and create that repository. And then we can go ahead and copy this to push what we just committed locally up to that. Okay, there we go. And then now we should see our application here. Perfect. All right, now let's pop over to the Hatchbox side of things. So when you first land here, you can sign up if you do not have an account. I already have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. But before we do that, let's look at pricing real quick right here, okay? So standard pricing, $10 per month per server. So we use meter billing with Stripe, okay? So basically what that boils down to is as long as you have a server that's active and running, your account will be billed according to how long that is running for, which on a given month works out to about $10 a month per server that you have, okay? Now, another thing, you can have unlimited apps with that server or with servers, right? You can put as many as that server can hold and work with on there. Unlimited team members. Now, something to note here, and I'll show you how to do this once we get logged in here. Unlimited team members, in order to invite people to your team, okay, once you sign up, you're going to get a personal account, which is just for yourself. If you start creating servers and deploying apps on those servers on that personal account, that personal account you cannot invite team members to. So if you plan to work with a team, once you sign up, you need to go create a new account that will be a team account and then start doing all your work of creating servers and putting applications on those servers and deploying them on that account. And then you can invite people to that team account. Also to mention here, we do have a 14-day free trial, so you can try this out. So with that all out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and log in here. I'll go ahead and sign into my account there. Now you'll land on your apps page here. I already have a couple of apps deployed on a server that I have, but I want to do this from scratch and not deploy to an existing server, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the servers up here in the bar, and I'm not going to use this existing server I have right here. What I'm going to do is create a new cluster. Now this actual name right here is the name of a cluster that I have. This cluster, as you see here, has one server in it. A cluster is just our way of being able to group servers together that do different things for your application. So for example, you could have a cluster that has 3 servers in it. One could be, your web server, or the other could be a server that runs background workers, and the other one could be a server that runs your database, for example, or whatever you want to do. However, as I'm doing on this cluster that only has one server, I'm running all those things for my apps on the same server, which you can totally do as well. Let's go ahead and let's just make a new cluster here. So I'm going to click New Cluster. You can change the name here if you want. I'll just leave it as this one. Next, you need to pick your hosting provider. So who is going to host the servers that you want to spin up, right? So I already have a DigitalOcean account, so I'm just going to go ahead and click DigitalOcean, and I'll click Create Cluster. Okay, now you'll be prompted to go here to connect your DigitalOcean account. So you can click this button, go ahead and do that. And I don't know which of these I have. I think I have GitHub. I could be wrong. Okay, looks like it. So yes, that is the team that I have in DigitalOcean. So I can go ahead and allow that. Okay, so now you can select a region where you want these servers to live. So let's just go ahead and pick one of these New York ones here. So I'll just say New York 1, continue. Okay, so now we're at the cluster page that we just created, right? The show page for that cluster. So our next step is to go ahead and actually add a server to this cluster as indicated right here. And as I mentioned a moment ago, you can see here in this description here that you need at least one web server in the cluster to serve your application, right? That's going to be the one that, gets requests and serves up your application. You can add multiple servers for larger applications, like I mentioned, that might need, for example, I didn't mention this one, but a load balancer. I mentioned this, separate database servers, or other configurations. And then once you've done this, you can go ahead and deploy apps to the cluster. So let's go ahead and add a web server. So I'll go ahead and click Add a Server. You can name the server whatever you want. Let's go ahead and say My Blog Server. So I'll change that name there. And then in the size drop down here, you can select all the different options that DigitalOcean makes available to you as far as servers. Now, my little blog application, this cheapo here, is probably just fine enough. So next we need to set up the responsibilities for this server. This server is not going to need to be a load balancer. We're not going to be hitting this server to route to different web servers or anything like that, because I don't envision my blog to get very much traffic, so don't need it right now. What we do need is a web server here, so we'll go ahead and select that. Cron responsibility, background worker. Let's just go ahead and do it. Custom processes, I don't need any of those right now. Database servers, so these are unmanaged databases, so your hosting provider is not managing these for you. It'll run on your server and keep your data local. I like that. I'm going to do that. So we generated the application with Postgres, so let's go ahead and select that as well. And then we don't need any of the other stuff here, so let's go ahead and create this server. So you can see now we're here back in the cluster show page, and we can see the servers that are in this cluster. Here's the one that we just created. the My Blog server, we can click into it just here, or we can click this view button. Now on the server show page, we can see there's some logs. We see this little processing indicator right here. We can click on this and we can watch all what happened. I know it disappeared real quick, but it was creating that server on DigitalOcean side of things. So let's go ahead and go back to overview here. So here we can see that that server is created. Another thing is that while that was happening, I got an email from Hatchbox about my new server password. So let's check that out real quick. So as you can see in this email from Hatchbox, it says that Hatchbox generated a new password for our server, the My Blog server. There's a link to add my SSH key in Hatchbox if I have not already done it, and then some instructions on how to log into the server. So SSH and then this address right there, and then to run commands as the root user on the server, we can use sudo and give it the following password that Hatchbox has created for us. So that is all well and good. Now let's go ahead and click back to view our server and see what's going on over there. When we look at the service provision, what this is going to do is this is going to set up all the packages and dependencies that we need on our server that we just created for it to be the best server for our application that it can possibly be. So we can watch this go by and until it completes.
A few moments later.
All right, so that has now completed. Let's go back to our overview page for this cluster. Okay, so over on the overview page for the cluster, let's go back and view this server. So let's go ahead and get our application deployed to this server. So from here, I'm going to click apps, and here you can see that we don't have any apps yet, which makes sense, but we can click here to deploy new applications. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So yes, we want that to be on the Lively Tree cluster. That is the new one that we created, not the other one here. That's the existing one that I had. App name, I can just go ahead and add in My Blog. We'll go ahead and create app. Now, we need to set up the connection to GitHub to the correct repository for our code, okay? So we can either do this custom Git host if you have one, or you can connect GitHub or Git. I'm hosting my blog application on GitHub, so I'm going to go ahead and connect GitHub. So I want to select myself. It's on my personal thing, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then go ahead and give it the old fingerprint. So we'll add the Hatchbox app to our GitHub, and we'll go ahead and say select repositories. Let's go ahead and look for the My Blog repository. We'll add that. I already have some existing ones down here. So now we can go ahead and click save, and we'll be redirected back to Hatchbox. So now we can see that we're connected to my GitHub account via the Hatchbox GitHub app. And now we need to add in the repo path. So that is simply, we can come over here and it's just our name / my blog. Okay, so we can go ahead and add that in. So here's my GitHub username, and then we can just say my blog. Okay. And then we want to use the main branch to deploy from. We do not have a subfolder or anything like that. Automatic deploys, we'll come back to that in a moment. But we can set up Hatchbox or enable automatic deploys with Hatchbox so that every push to our main branch will go ahead and automatically trigger a new deployment through Hatchbox. But you can also trigger deploys via webhooks if you need to. So we're not going to touch any of the deployment stuff right now. Now that we have our basic app repo details set up, let's go ahead and hit save changes. All right, so now that we have all the repository settings set up, let's go to our overview here for our application. So on overview here, we can see very first thing right here is the getting started checklist, okay? We can see here that set environment variables is already checked off. It's been done for us. If we click into that, we can see all the environment variables that have been set up for us. So it's just your basic things, right? So we bundle without the development and test environments, rack invis production, Rails invis production, Rails log just standard out true. So we get our logs, and we have our secret key base set up here. And we'll come back to environment variables in a little bit here. But let's go ahead and go back to overview for the My Blog application. So next up on the list is to add a database. So let's go ahead and click into that. So add a database. You can choose between free unmanaged databases or paid managed databases from your hosted provider, as I mentioned earlier. We're just going to do a free unmanaged one that's hosted locally on our server. So that's what we're going to do right here. We're going to click on the new My Blog server's PostgreSQL. Again, I'm going to do unmanaged because I don't really see the need to have, my hosted provider manage a database for me. Although if you're going to production with, a small business application or something, a side project that you're hoping to turn into a business, there are some benefits to having a managed database, some of which are pointed out right here, okay? So that aside, let's go ahead and make a new database here. Let's see, so we can set up a database name here if we want. Let's go ahead and change that so we know exactly what this is for, so my blog DB. So here we can see it's going to be a Postgres database, what version it's going to be using. It's hosted on the my blog server. Currently this cluster has 0 databases because we haven't created any yet. We're about to do that right now. So we named it. Let's go ahead and click create database. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Let's go ahead and change these dashes to underscores here. Okay, so let's create that one now. Okay, now we land on the databases tab for the My Blog application here, and we can see clearly that in the first section, the attached databases section, we now see the database that we just created. Now, if we go back to the environment tab, we will now see that we have a database URL environment variable that points to that new Postgres database that we just created. And we can see that at the end here, my blog DB, okay? So now we got a database that should check number 2 on our list here, and it did. So next up in our list here is configure domains in SSL. So if you have a domain, if I bought, colinsblog.com or whatever, or colin.dev available, whatever, if I went ahead and bought that, I could set that up here. I have not, but that's okay because Hatchbox will generate a URL for us that we can access our application through until we get to that point. So we can still have it on the web and tinker with things and make improvements to it while we're in the process of thinking of a domain or buying one or whatever. So you can still access it, you can still share it with your friends via this Hatchbox generated URL for your app. If you've purchased your own SSL certificate, you can upload all of that and the private key information here. You can also add domains via the API and remove them via the API as well. We're not going to do any of that though. So since I don't have a domain, I'm not going to go ahead and complete this final step here. We don't need to at the moment. Since we're not going to do that, we can move right along here. When you're all done, click deploy button to start your first deploy. Now, one thing I'll say here is that this new Rails app that I just generated in production is going to be using solid queue, solid cable, and solid cache. And we need to be prepared for that because if we click deploy right now, most likely it's going to fail. So now all of those gems, if you go look at their readmes, ideally say to set them up on their own databases, okay? Now, you can set them all up on one database, but they recommend to have separate databases for each of those. So we need to go ahead and do that. The nice thing is that we have a help article in Hatchbox that tells you exactly how to do that. So over here in the top right, if you click on help, and I'm just gonna go ahead, I'll open this up in a new tab here. If you come over here, let me zoom in a little bit for you. If you type solid and we just hit enter, we get this help article right here. How do I use multiple databases with Rails and Hatchbox? So we can click into this and we can read some information about how to do this. So since we're using PostgreSQL for our app, we can use these steps right here. So for Postgres and MySQL, you need to define a database URL for each database in your config database.yaml. So we need to go create 3 more databases, okay? So what's going to happen every time we go to create a new database for each of these solid gems, as mentioned in the article here, Hatchbox tries to set database URL, but we already have that for our primary database, right? So if it's already defined, like it will be in our case, it'll prefix a color like blue, for example, to the database URL environment variable so it doesn't conflict. So then what we can do is we can then rename these environment variables so that we have one for each of our database, so matching all of these environment variable names right here. So let's go ahead and do that. So back over on the app page for my blog, we'll click on databases. We can add new Postgres. So let's just go ahead and change this respectively to each one of the names. So let's go ahead, we'll do solid Q first. So we'll click create database. And now let's quickly, before we go create any of the other ones, let's go look at the environment tab. So now we should see a color prefix. So here we go, red database URL. And that is now pointing to the solid Q database, right? So while we're here, what we could do is we can go ahead and rename this one. So what is it, Q database URL, right? So we can copy this portion here and we can change the red part right here to be Q underscore database underscore URL. And we can click save changes. Okay, so now we can go confirm that it's all good. So now we can see that database or that environment variable is renamed for that database. And again, it points to our solid Q one. So now we can go back to databases and we can go create 2 more. So let's go ahead and do a new one. Let's make this one solid cable. Okay, we'll create that one. And then let's create another one while right here. We can say solid cache. Okay, so now we should have all 3. So solid cache, solid Q, solid cable. Perfect. So now if we go into environment right here, we can do the same for the other 2 color prefixed databases right now. So let's see, we got blue up here at the top, which is our solid cache one. So let's see, we need to do cache database URL instead. So we can change this. So this will be cache. And then red down here should be our cable one. It is, so we can say cable right here. Okay, confirm that's the name we need. So now we go ahead and save changes on both of those. And if we go back to environment, we can now see that we have the cable database URL, the cache database URL, our main primary database URL, and then the queue database URL. Okay, so we are all set up for all the solid gems. They're all pointing to their own databases, so that is all well and good. So now I think we're ready to go ahead and give our app an attempt to go ahead and deploy here. So right at the top here, you can always have access to this. You can go ahead and click the deploy button. Okay, and you'll see the little flash message at the top here. Your deploy will start shortly. We can view the logs and we can follow along in what's going on here. So here we can see in the main app deploy log that it's starting the deployment from the main branch as this release here, right? And then it's deploying to the MyBlog server. Down the server logs, we can click into this and get even more information and follow along as it's deploying our application live to the web. So while that's deploying, I mentioned that if you plan to invite team members to work on your applications with you and be able to navigate around in Hatchbox, you need to create a team account. So once you sign up for yourself, you'll have a personal account, which is what I'm on currently. And you'll see, actually, I do have a team account with my good buddy Kent over here. So this is how him and I are able to work on things together, should we choose. But what you want to do is over here, you can go to accounts in the profile drop down here, and then you can create an account. And you can give this account a name, upload a file for the avatar, and create it. And by default, any new accounts you create after you sign up are automatically team accounts. So then once you do that, you can go into this the account page for your team account. For example, if I go into this one, and then you'll see that there are buttons to invite a user to. So you can just go ahead, click that, add their name and email, and send them an invite to your account. All right, so we can see that that has now completed. Let's see if we can go ahead and view our app. So over here again, you can click View App, and this will go to the Hatchbox generated URL for your application. And now here we are. We can see there's our application live and direct on the web via that Hatchbox generated URL for us. So we go ahead and click New Post. We can make a new post if we wanted. However, one thing I just thought about is that I installed Action Text here, and it's using tricks, but I was just at Rails World where they announced Lexi, which is the new Markdown editor for Rails, okay? So I kind of think I'd like to switch to that and use that instead of the tricks editor here. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's first go ahead and enable automatic deploys. So that once we make the change and we push it to GitHub, that'll automatically kick off a new deployment and get this live to the web with Lexi. Now before we do that, one thing I want to point out here is that on this app, there's two processes here that are set up. One to start the server here, and the other one to start solid queue up via the bin jobs command. Now, Hatchbox was able to detect that we were using solid queue and automatically set up this process for us. I didn't have to do that at all. So Hatchbox is well aware if you're using solid queue that it needs to go ahead and do this. So something I just want to point out to you so that you note. So let's go ahead and enable those automatic deployments, okay? So in order to do that, we need to go to repository, and we can scroll down a little bit, and automatic deployments, we can just go ahead and click the button to enable automatic deployments. So I'll do that, and now we scroll back down, we'll see that it has now changed to disable automatic deployments. So if we click it, we'll shut that off. But we also see the flash message up here that automatic deployments have been enabled successfully. All right, so let's close out some of these extra windows that we don't need here. And now I'm gonna go ahead and go to Ruby Gems here, and let's look up Lexi. Okay, here it is right here. Let's go to GitHub for it, and let's follow along and see how to go ahead and make this switch. All right, so we need to go ahead and add this since it is a pre-release version. We need to specify the version, so let's go ahead and copy this, and then let's go back to our code here. Let's kill this server. And let's go ahead and open up the editor here, and let's go into the gem file. Okay, and let's see, I'll scroll down a little bit here. Let's maybe put this right before the development group here. So let's go ahead and paste that in, give it a little extra line so we can see it clearly. We're going to go ahead and need to bundle install that. All right, so with import maps, so we are using import maps because I just did a default Rails 8 application. So let's go ahead and copy these and add those to the import map .rb file, import map .rb. There we go. We can go ahead and get those added in here. We can delete that commented line there. Then in application.js, we need to go ahead and import Lexi. So let's copy that real quick. Application.js, import Lexi. All right, so we've got that. All right, so let's see. It's going to override for us. We can opt out if we want. We do not want to opt out. CSS setup, we need to go ahead and add this. So let's go to our application layout here, layout application, and let's see, let's go down here under this style sheet, we'll add the Lexi one. Okay, let's see, for applying the same styles to rendered action text content, you need to override the current default by adding this template. Okay, so we just need to add probably class Lexi content here. So let's go look for that file. So let's see, underscore content. Okay, yep, so instead of we want Lexi content instead of tricks content. And let's see, syntax highlighting, rendered action text. Yep, okay, so let's go ahead and just copy this and let's make that file. So we'll do edit this, and then let's copy all of this code here and just paste that in. Okay, we'll save that. Then we need to go back to that content partial and add this data controller here. So we'll go over here and we can add just here. There we go. All right, so I think that should be pretty good. Let's go ahead and let's fire this thing up and let's see what happens. So let's go localhost here. Let's go to edit, and this is definitely now no longer the tricks editor. This is definitely the Lexi editor here. And just so we can check that, let's go ahead and add a single pound sign. Let's do a triple one as well. So let's say like level 3 heading. Okay, and let's update the post. And now we see that, okay, that markdown is working correctly. So we know we've got Lexi set up. Let's go ahead and let's check the syntax highlighting actually while we're here too. So let's go ahead and let's see, plain text. Nope, we're gonna do Ruby, and let's say def foo puts bar end. Okay, update post, and look at that, we've got syntax highlighting from Lexi as well. So I think we're all good to go on this. So now we've got that, let's go to the app overview page here. Okay, let's just sit here for a second. Let's go back to the terminal here. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of my editor here, do a quick git status here. Yep, all those changes are from switching over to Lexi. So let's just say commit everything with the message of switch to Lexi. Okay, and we'll go ahead and push that. And now when we push here, we should be able to jump over to Hatchbox and see a new deploy has been kicked off. So we'll go ahead and push that. Okay, now let's go back over to Hatchbox here, and sure enough, you can see right here that an app deploy job has been kicked off to deploy our application automatically for us. Also, you can see here, there's the auto deploy tag right here set up. So we can click on into this, and we can see that it's, you know, the app's deploying. There's our server logs down here below, so we can follow all along if we wanted to. And once this is done, we should be able to view the app and then go to make a new post and see that it's now using Lexi. All right, so that's completed. Scroll up to the top here. Let's go view app. Okay, here we are. If we go new post, we can see now that this is using the Lexi editor here. So let's go ahead and say first post deployed with Hatchbox. And we just say something like that was pretty easy. Okay, so we can go ahead and create post, and there we are. Our app is live on the web, currently via this generated Hatchbox URL, because we didn't buy a domain yet and set all that up, but doing that is very easy to do. Now, one final thing I want to end this video on is, what if we need to jump into our Rails console on our production server to do something or to check some data? Well, let's go to servers. Okay, let's go click on our server. We can go to this SSH tab over here in the nav bar. And then on this page, you can see all the SSH keys for this server. So here's the one that Hatchbox uses to connect to your server. There's the key for it right there. And then to log into your server, we can see here that there's a link to add your SSH key. We can click that. Now, I already have mine here, but if you need to set up yours, you can click new SSH key. And then there's some instructions on how to generate your SSH key or find an your current SSH key based on what style you're using right here. So you can go ahead, do all that, add the appropriate information here, name it, add the public key here, save SSH key, and we'll add that to your server. So once that's done, you can go ahead and copy this SSH command here. And in your terminal, you can simply paste that command in and run it. You can go ahead and say yes to continue, and then it'll prompt you for things. We'll enter that password. And now you will see that we've successfully SSH'd into that server. And then we can see the applications that are deployed to the server. That server only has the My Blog application, which is all we see here. So we can do a couple things here. We can read the process logs by running this command right here. You can just simply copy and paste that. We can look at the solid queue process logs by running this command here. But if we need to jump to the Rails console, we can do it just like this. Now, of course, if you want to be really safe here, you can do the sandbox mode flag right here, right, -S. And you can see here, as indicated by the message here, we are in sandbox mode. So we're in production environment. As also indicated here in our prompt, but in the sandbox mode. So any changes that we make will be rolled back. So here we can just say, post up first, and there's our post that we just made, right? All right, so that is deploying Ruby on Rails applications with Hatchbox. I hope that was easy to follow along with. I hope you feel inspired now to give Hatchbox a try, whether that be to deploy, personal side projects that you're working on, or that small business that you're working on, or maybe a client business that you're working with. Really the range of what you could do on Hatchbox for a size of applications, it spans every end of the spectrum. And one thing I want to point out, as we note here on the homepage, that these are servers that you own and control, right? So if you need to SSH in, like we just did, and install a little package real quick, that your application needs, we make that really easy to do by just SSHing in via that command like I just showed you. So again, thank you very much for watching this video. If you're watching this to go through setting up your first app with Hatchbox, I hope you found it helpful. If you're interested in Hatchbox, I hope this gives you the nudge to go ahead and give Hatchbox a try with whatever projects that you're working on. So with that, take care, and feel free to hit us up with any questions anytime. We're always here to help. Take care, and happy deploying.